Hello and welcome back to the Cinch YouTube channel, where today we are driving the new Vauxhall Astra Electric. Now, as you'll see, this car is fresh from Germany, hence the German plate, but it is representative of the right-hand drive cars we'll be getting here later this year. So let's hit the road and see if this is the electric hatchback you should be buying. But before we get to that, if you like EVs from Germany, or in fact cars from anywhere around the world, make sure you check out cinch.co.uk or download our app before looking for your next car. Let's just talk very briefly about the design of this car, which you've probably noticed is basically identical to the petrol and hybrid models, which we have driven, by the way. Links are in the description below. Really, the biggest difference is actually the wheels, because they are very slightly more aerodynamic to give this car a little bit of extra range. Now, it's much the same inside as well. It really does feel identical to the hybrid and petrol models, and that's no bad thing. This is a really nice interior. Some of the design details and the fit and finish are really very good. And also you get a big amount of technology as standard. Now, noticeable are the big screens ahead of me here. You've got wireless Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, and you've got a nice big instrument cluster ahead of you here. It does look a little bit different to the other models, namely because instead of, for example, a fuel gauge, you have a battery range display. But otherwise, this interior is lovely, or that's true anyway up front. It does get slightly different at the back. Now, initially in the back, it doesn't feel any different to the petrol and hybrid models, and that's a good thing because there is good space. I can still tuck my toes under the seat ahead, and I've got good knee room here as well because this seat is pinched a bit. But I think there may be a slight increase in the floor height. I haven't done a back-to-back test, but the battery is underneath us, although it doesn't seem to really have a fundamental impact overall. The seats as well in the back are very comfortable. This whole car, by the way, has certification for having really high standard comfort seats. And in the back, in these chairs here, it's really supportive and really nice, even on my shoulders. And you've got a bit of tech as well. You've got a USB-C port down here and two vents as well, which can be controlled individually. Now, the middle seat, it must be said, isn't the biggest. It's not the widest, and also because this isn't just an electric car as a group of cars, you can of course get the petrol and hybrid. It means the floor here isn't shaped in an optimized way for an EV. So while there's no mechanics under here, I've still got this big chunky thing in the floor here, which does rob me of some floor space. So best to think of this as a nice, comfortable four-seater with a fifth seat for when you need it. And of course, if you've only got four in the car, you do have a nice armrest here with two cup holders as well. Now, when it comes to the boot, this is where you're going to see the biggest difference between this electric car and its engine-powered siblings, because, well, initially, everything looks the same. You've got a good wide boot here and it goes relatively deep. It's a nice and easy boot to load as well, and you've got some protection here if you've got heavy items. But if you lift up the floor here, you'll see not only is some space taken up by your charge cables here, but if you look further back here, you'll see that the floor lifts up because that's where the battery is and that's where all the electric stuff begins for this car. So as an electric boot though, it actually is still really very good and very competitive. So all that's left for us to see now is how it drives. So aside from being in a left-hand drive car in the UK, which does feel a little bit weird, otherwise, this Astra Electric feels very familiar indeed. I drove the hybrid model and the petrol cars earlier this year, and I liked them both, especially the purely petrol car, because it felt nice and light on its toes. Now, this Astra Electric has a big heavy battery in the middle of it here, which does give it competitive range. It's 258 miles claimed, which puts it about where it needs to be in this category. But because it's priced at very close to £40,000, it does nestle up pretty closely to models like the Tesla Model 3, which are very, very high-end feeling cars. So this thing has its work cut out to justify that premium. Even if you pay monthly, the rates still put it close to models like that. And I've said about the interior and the looks, I think those very much justify that price. And the range is kind of decent where it needs to be. The charging as well is good. This thing will charge with a 100 kilowatt plug. The maximum speed it will do is 100 kilowatts. And in that, you can get from 10 to 80% of battery in about 30 minutes, so they say. But obviously, most people are going to be overnight charging at home with this thing. But on the road, it does feel really good. I was worried that this car would feel a little bit heavy. Even though it's lighter than most of its electric rivals, I thought it might feel a bit chubby over the bumps and a bit tricky over undulations and cambers and especially potholes, but actually it doesn't at all. The petrol model definitely feels lighter. You definitely are aware of there only being weight over the nose in that petrol car and then it gliding over the bumps a bit more. The hybrid car, by contrast, with its battery in the boot, actually felt quite stiff at points. I think having the weight over the rear of the car really made it tricky. Now this is somewhere in the middle, as you'd expect, I guess, because the battery is in the floor, the weight distribution is more even, so it just feels like it goes down a road a lot better than the hybrid model. It's smoother and it handles nice as well, as I can demonstrate on this roundabout. If I turn it in, it steers really lovely, good grip, smooth delivery of power. This is not a sports car, it's quick enough. It will get you to 62 miles per hour with no issues whatsoever, up to the speed limit on a motorway as well, and it will glide along very efficiently. It's really quiet as well, I must say. Road noise is nice and low, wind noise is nice and low, the sound system is really good. Just overall, this is a very good car indeed, and actually to live with as well, just getting comfortable in the seat, even though I'm on the wrong side of the car. Sorry, Germans. It just feels like the sort of car you could have in the background of your life that you don't think about too much, but then because it's got good tech and because it looks great, especially in this shade of blue, there are many things to like about it as well. It gives it character. What about the range? Does it do what it says? Well, I never had the car with full charge. I actually got the car with 60%, but I did have the aircon on and quite high as well this morning. It was very hot. And I wasn't driving it in an unusual manner. I was driving out the city in a bit of traffic, and then I got on the motorway. I definitely accelerated up to the speed limit and enjoyed the smooth linear delivery of power this car offers. And yet the estimation for the amount of miles I have left have been bang on what I've used to the nearest mile. When I drove 40 miles, I lost 40 miles in claimed range on the dash. So that did fill me with quite a lot of confidence. Now you do have drive modes as well, and I've left it in its standard mode, but if I put it into sport, what does it do? Oh, sharpens up the accelerator, definitely feels nippy. Actually, so much so, in fact, that this is kind of hot hatch pace on the initial get-go, and then, yes, okay, the power falls away, and then the torque delivery is just nice and smooth. But getting away at the traffic lights and stuff like that, this is quick. Let's try eco mode. Does exactly what they all do, just slows the accelerator down. Feels like the accelerator now has a volleyball behind it, and as I push down on it, I'm trying to squeeze the air in the volleyball to access where the power is. It's just further down the pedal. I'm sure it does some other things elsewhere in the car, but as far as is concerned, when you're driving the thing, it just makes you drive slower. So we'll put it back into normal, where the car is really nicely balanced, actually. You can also have the car regenerating and putting more energy into the battery. So if I pull the drive selector back into B mode, actually, if I press the button, when I come off the accelerator, I can feel the energy going into the battery because I'm decelerating. I don't have to brake the car, and it will bring the car at lower speeds to a complete stop. Although as I come up to this roundabout here, I will probably just graze the brake pedal because it's not the most aggressive when it comes to your regenerative tech. So drivers who are new to EVs will probably like that. It doesn't feel like it's braking quite hard. But for those of us who live with EVs, and I have one myself, I do wish maybe you could turn up that regeneration a little bit more. I'd like to have it really slow me down because then you know you're getting maximum efficiency. But that being said, if I just left it in normal mode and drive it like a normal car, it's nice. So the Astra Electric is, well, I really like it. I'm actually pleasantly surprised to see that it rides better than I expected. I thought a heavy battery might make it a bit stiff, but actually it rides really well on our roads, and especially when you put it in sport mode, it's pretty quick as well, so it's quite entertaining to drive. But what matters most is it looks great, and it's a really nice place to be, and it's got just about enough range to be competitive in this class. I know the Tesla Model 3 is dangerously close in terms of pricing, but this does slot under the 40K mark starting. So for people who are, for example, fleet buyers, I think it's going to be in a safe margin. It's a great car, easy to love and easy to live with. So I think it's a big thumbs up from me for the Astra Electric. But what do you think? Let us know in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to click subscribe and like this video as well. We'll be seeing you soon, hopefully.